This is a follow-up to the previous video. It turns out you don't even have to boot to another live ISO to fix the EFI loader path. It's actually possible to fix it straight from the EFI shell. So to show that, I've reset back to the fresh Open Media Vault install. So I'm going to do the same as before. I'm just going to continue this through, and we'll kind of walk through the steps previously. We'll get this booted, show that the EFI var goes away, show that it fails to boot, and then we'll swap over to the EFI shell and fix it. So again, this is all standard boot. The reason it's able to boot right now, of course, it has that variable saved in memory, and it's not until the VM shuts down that it loses it. So there we go. So once again, we'll just shut this off. That way we'll lose our EFI variable. I do need to go in and remove the CD because I've still got the install CD there. I need to take that out. And that'll give us a chance to see. There we go. Okay, so we are back to the original state. We don't have an EFI loader path stored in any EFI variable, so it doesn't know what to load. So this is the point at which we had swapped over to a rescue CD, rescue ISO, to get back to a Linux environment and fix the loader path. But this was kind of cool. There's a way to do this straight from the EFI shell. So right now it's failed to boot from either the hard drive or the CD, so it's trying to boot over a PXE over the network, which is going to fail. It takes an annoyingly long time to fail, so I'm going to issue a reset and then hit escape so we can get into the boot manager. And the reason I'm doing that, again, it'll eventually fail out to the EFI shell, but this is a quicker way of going straight to the EFI shell. So from here, we'll give it a second to finish its startup. It shows the drives or the partitions that it can see. The one we're interested in is FS0. So if you do FS0:, hit enter, it'll switch over to it. This is the EFI partition. If we do an LS, we can see there's the EFI subdirectory, and we can change into the EFI subdirectory. We can see there's Debian, and if we ls Debian, there's Grub x64. So it's kind of cool. If we switch into Debian, we can actually run this from here. So even without changing anything, we can just run Grub x64, and there we go. If we run from here, we can get, as a matter of fact, we'll go ahead and do it. We'll go ahead and load up Open Media Vault. So without ever loading an external live ISO, we were able to get right back in using the existing EFI shell. So one thing we could do now that we're back in a booted Open Media Vault, if we were to reboot now, we'd still have the boot failure. Nothing has changed yet. So if we wanted, we could switch over to boot. Let's get the LS I'm comfortable with here. One moment. Not actually needed, but this makes it where I can see what I'm doing. And so basically what we're looking at is, well, it doesn't help. There we go. So the reason I'm doing this is we have that SDA1, our EFI partition. The reason I'm switching over to boot is that's simply where it's mounted. You can see the mount point over there on the right, /boot/EFI. So that's where we're at now. And that means we could go straight in here into EFI. There's Debian. We could do make directory boot and then all the copying stuff we had done before. But let's say we don't want to have to go back and forth between, let's say we get the path wrong or something else goes wrong. We don't want to have to go back and forth between, we can boot into the environment, we can't, and back and forth. So what I want to do is, actually we can just reboot. And then I'll hit escape so I can jump straight to the boot manager and EFI shell. So not only can we directly launch the EFI loader from the shell, we can make the new path and copy it. So once again, FS0, CD over, let's just look at what's there, CD EFI, And then, so here we go. Now we can make that default path, which is boot, cd into boot. Now we can copy level up Debian, and that was grub x64.efi. We'll copy that here to boot x64.efi. So there we go. We've got the file copied over. Now to show it working, of course we could manually launch it, but what we want to see is a fresh, proper reboot and see it all work now. So I'm going to issue a reset. And there it goes. So now we've reached Grub, so everything is working. We'll, I guess, go ahead and let it boot all the way in one last time. But I just wanted to point that out as a way to kind of streamline the process, assuming the EFI shell is available, which we've established that the environment is Proxmox and that we're using EFI, so it definitely should be. And there we go. So didn't have to mess with EFI Boot Manager, didn't have to mess with an external ISO, just use the built-in EFI shell, and we're set.